am starting a new series of plant growing. In our unit of cycles, we talk about the needs of a plant for survival. We also talk about all living things, but in this case, we would be talking about plants, and we would be starting some seeds, and then I would have some other small plants for us to experiment with. And these plants will grow where we'll be able to experiment with them in about May. I'll be growing beans and peas for my garden, and they're real simple to grow, and these I can grow without soil. And in class we do this because then we can see the first little sprouts because there's no soil to block what's happening for us to see. So the first thing you do, you got to get all your materials, and I got some organic seeds for peas. I got Sugar Daddies, and for green beans I got Tender Pods. Okay, the second thing you need is real simple, is baggies. I pre-labeled them. I'm using the really large baggies because I am going to be starting a lot of seeds because, like I said, most of these are really going to go to my garden for to grow for vegetables to eat. I got 2 big ones for peas and 2 big ones for beans, and I labeled them. And the last thing you need, paper towel. You do not need any soil at this point. It's really a simple start. And my first step is I took the paper towel and I folded it into fourths. So that way you see there's this nice little pocket, and I'll be able to put all the seeds in there and fold it over. So I'm going to pause so you don't have to sit and watch. Plus I need my hands holding the camera. It's a little bit tough to do this. So in just a minute I'll show you how it looks with the seeds ready for the next step. So the way I'm doing it is it looks a little bit like this. Again, in class you would just have 1 or 2 in your paper towel. I've never done this many together, so we'll see as they start to grow what happens. I know there's a couple things that might happen, but again, this can work like an experiment, so no big deal if we fail. You always learn from failing, right? All right, so I'm going to stop the camera for a second and then show you the next easy step. Okay, so I have a towel down because things are about to get wet. It'll make cleanup easier. And then all I'm going to do is fold it over, and it's going to keep folding back on me until it gets wet. So maybe I will get it a little bit wet first. I'm going to get it wet across the top. And I like to use a spray bottle so that I have a lot more control on how much water I'm giving and where I'm giving it to, instead of just pouring water on it. So I'm fixing all my little seeds. I'm thinking they'll probably work better if they're not overlapping each other and in a straight row, kind of like in a garden. So I'm going to press that down, and now you see how it stays down for me because it's a little stuck together. Now I'm going to get it good and wet. These actually, sometimes too much water is not good for a plant or for a seed, but for this, I've learned over many, many years of doing this with my classes that they really do like water, but not too much. In class, we would have had some of them get all moldy and not grow because they rot. And unfortunately, we don't get to have all those experiments where we figure out what's too dry and what's too wet. So I'm just going to be using my prior knowledge on this. All right, I'll pause till the next step. All right, as the scientist using my prior knowledge, I have paused my thinking. And again, I told you I've never done it with this many seeds before, but as I went to put it in the baggie, I thought, you know what? We hang these baggies in the window, and all the water collects at the bottom of the baggie. And the way I had done the seeds, when I folded it, they were all at the very bottom. And think about when I water it. The water's all going to go to the bottom. If the seeds are all at the bottom, they're not just going to be staying wet because of the paper towel. They're going to be sitting in a pool of water. And boy, oh boy, I've learned over the years that that is how they become gross, moldy messes and die. So I'm going to rethink here. I'm going to move them up halfway. If I move them up halfway when I fold the paper towel, that'll make it where the paper towel is at the bottom, absorbing the water. Now, paper towel will only absorb so much water. It'll let the rest sit at the bottom, so that's good for our pea plants because that way the peas would just keep absorbing water until they got rotten. So this way, it's kind of like when you have a watering stem in a plant pot. So the paper towel will only be enough to stay wet, which will be good for our peas, and then all the extra water, kind of like a drainage hole in your pot, will be down here when I fold it in half. So then it can absorb up to the peas, but none of them will be sitting in a puddle of water. Okay, so let me fix that and get it in the baggie, and then we'll start the video back up. Alrighty, so now you can see our pea bag. And I know some of you just laughed at that because of the jokes you guys have been making all year, but this is science, remember, we're very serious, right? Alright, if you see in the large baggie, I had moved it down carefully to keep it nice and flat, and then here's the bottom of my baggie. And I will be able to then have the water collecting down here. The seeds are right up here, about an inch higher. Now, I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the baggies, then show you the last step that we have to do for the first day. Very simple so far in just a few minutes. Okay, I wanted to show you real quick what the beans look like. The peas, as you had seen. Where'd it go? There it is. Oh, there it is. Just look like dried up peas. You can still see a little bit of the green tint to them. And then the beans would be what's inside the pods if they dried up. And you're like, wait, they're white. But they will end up being green beans. All right, back in a minute. The beans were bigger and there were less seeds, so I went ahead and made each of their rows a lot more spread out. I thought that would help them maybe to grow a little better. Since they have the space, we might as well use it, right? All right, next step, putting them in the window. My neighbors are gonna probably think I'm crazy for having baggies taped in my window, but if they come up in my yard and look, they'll go, oh, it's seeds. So I have the two big baggies that you saw me making, but then we're gonna have to be able to get in there and look at them, and I'm thinking disturbing a bunch of seeds, all those seeds at the same time just to check them, could be quite disruptive to their growth. So we're gonna have little ones. There's just two in each of those miniature packets of the paper towel packets. And then I'll show you the beans. The beans are bigger, so you can see the individual ones in there a lot easier. And then again, I made the small baggie so that you could see that we're gonna be pulling those out and checking them. And I'm gonna now show you, how do we know when we should start checking them? Alrighty, we live in a wonderful world of Google, but we don't even have to Google. We have the seed packets. Now, if you look at the information it says it's the pea bag, and we can see that we're doing that. And then they give us information about how to plant them. That's for outside, and I'll worry about that a little bit later. But then it says seedlings emerge in 7 to 14 days. And then, if we think about that, and then on the beans, exact same thing. Seedlings emerge in 7 to 14 days. Well, seedlings are the baby plants that, with these planting instructions, they're expecting that you don't see any of the plant until it comes above the soil, and that's the little baby plant that comes above the soil. That's the seedling. So then we need to think, well, let's not disrupt them too much. If we didn't even get the baby plants till 7 to 14 days, we will probably just water them for now, but we won't be opening and unfolding to check them out for a few days at least, because the earliest we'd even get a baby plant is 7 to 14 days. But I told you we did it this way so we could see what goes on under the soil. Big hint, hint there. Also with the baggies, I didn't show you that I did not seal the baggies. I am thinking it'll get too moist in there, being in the sunshine and getting all hot and steamy, and I'm afraid that they might mold. So I'm going to give them a chance to have a little bit of air for that. All right, and then also important information on the packet shows that we live in the green zone. So they're telling me that I can plant them in, if you look at the green, April to May, and then in August. And that is my plan. All the seeds I've started now, they'll be going in the ground as soon as they are a little bit bigger seedlings, and then I save some seeds to have another round in August, and that way I could have peas later in the year. Now the beans, I shouldn't put them out until May or to July, so I won't be putting those out for a little bit. I'll let those stay in the house longer. And it's very important to know your regions. If you notice, we can plant earlier down here where it's warm, and a little bit colder needs to be later, colder. So that just makes sense for what plants need, and that we don't grow vegetables outside during the winter. So thinking about that, warmer gets to go earlier. All right, that is it for now. And I will be seeing you later with another installment. Just keep watching YouTube. Like I said, we won't do anything with them for at least probably the end of the week, and then we'll check on them maybe on Friday. Bye, guys. Just as a little added bonus, I wanted to show you the way that some other plants can be started inside for your garden. And in my windowsill, I have started some herbs. Here I have oregano, lemon balm, basil, and cilantro, and I started these maybe about a week ago. Actually, it's not even been that long. And you mass put the seeds, and these are done where it's got a watering stem. If you see down there, that little core in the middle right here, it's right here, and it pulls water up into the plant. So that way they're not getting drowned. The cilantro's done nothing. The basil has sprouted. The oregano has sprouted a ton. And the lemon balm just started to sprout some today. And in case you're wondering why I keep going by, that's my baby Groot. He has basil that's already been growing. Isn't he just simply the cutest? But what you do with herbs, they really can spread. So I don't like to put them in the ground. I grow them all year. I grow basil and oregano in my window year round to use in my cooking. But these little seeds, once they get a little bit bigger, you spread them out. And I have a special, I turned a pallet into a upward garden in my yard. And that way it keeps it from getting down in the grass. Because if you plant them in a garden on the ground, they eventually spread into your yard and can really take over. Okay, so we can also be watching those, but these had to be done a different way, and all you can see is the sprouts. And then I'm going to show you one other thing that I've been working on. All right, the last, I just used an old Meyer raspberry sherbet, and I put, this is lettuce. It is specifically butter crunch lettuce. And I just planted, these are itty bitty seeds like the herbs, and I just planted them all in here. And then as they get bigger, I can transfer them outside. Lettuce, I have a big flower pot. It's an enormous one. It's at least 2 foot tall and 2 feet wide that I use for lettuce because the little critters like it. I always put some down for them, but I try to make it harder for them to get to. So I have those up higher in pots, and lettuce grows and you can just cut from it all year. I'm also going to start some spinach, but this I can do real simply, and then just pull the babies, the seedlings, when they get a couple inches tall, I can separate them and put them in a pot. And then the other thing that I'm working on right now is sunflower seeds. I love to grow sunflower seeds. I don't always eat them, but I use them for my birds. I have bird planters. I mean, not bird planters. I have bird feeders. So I like to have sunflowers for them. And this is the Mammoth. It's one of the better varieties for if you want to eat them, which means the big seeds, which are good for birds. And what I did, and you can't see it, I made 2 pots, and I just took the seeds, and they look exactly like the sunflower seeds you eat, and I put them about 1 inch apart around, and I made 2 circles worth, and I think 1 or 2 in the middle, and I have 2 of those going. And the same thing, when those start to sprout, I'm going to go ahead and just put those outside in the garden. They go at the back because they grow very tall. And the cool thing about that is the seed, they're real easy. I could just throw the seeds out there and they would grow. From previous years, sometimes I get lots of babies regrowing the next year, and I'm like, where are all these coming from? And it is just my sunflowers, and tomatoes do it too. But those aren't always the best plants, so I like to start with new plants each year. All right, guys, that is it. I will cut this video out with the cute face of Baby Groot. Say bye, Baby Groot. Oh, wait, he can't talk. Oops. Haha. Bye, guys.